Filthy Rags by Darrell Szenasi. Cast of characters: Ruby, a former burlesque dancer; Carlton, Ruby's husband; Junior, their son; Van, an inmate in a local prison; Dr. Shapiro, the prison physician; and the judge. The place: Texas, during the Great Depression. Act 1. Setting: inside the prison. Dr. Shapiro is working in his office when Ruby enters. She carries a knitting bag and a pan covered with wax paper.
People wonder why I drink.
Good morning to you too.
He tried to hang himself last night, and he'll probably try it again. Are you sure you want to do this today?
Why not?
To be honest, I never expected you to even show up.
I wondered myself.
I'm going to go in with you just to make sure he behaves himself. He's not very stable.
I can handle him.
You're pretty sure of yourself, aren't you? Look, I'm just trying to protect you. Even though I've given him a sedative, he might try something.
All drugs do is mask the symptoms. You got to deal with your problems, or they'll deal with you.
Oh, and where did you get your degree, Mrs. Diamond?
Dr. Shapiro, I don't mean any disrespect. I just think it's better to deal with the problems rather than covering them up. That's all I'm saying.
The treatment we give the men here allows us to control them, and it allows them to function at some level.
Function?
And it protects everyone. These men are not capable of rehabilitation. They're junk, waiting to die. And we've drained the swamp, and this is the result.
You're trying to convince me he has goblins under his bed. That may be, but it doesn't change anything. I'm going in there.
Well, if I had my way, you'd be out of here. You know this prison is haunted.
Is it?
Yeah, through these corridors roam the ghosts of all those souls who've been wronged, seeking their justice.
Well, they will have to get in line.
He may not be too responsive.
Doctor, what exactly have you done to him?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the specific treatment of the inmates. We're just trying to keep them from killing each other.
I'd hope someone in your position would have high aspirations.
Yeah, it's easy to judge when you have no experience.
Then let me have my experience.
I'd hate to see you come out of here covered in blood just because of some demonic determination. I suggest you keep a tight rein on that masochistic instinct of yours, Mrs. Diamond. May I speak frankly?
I'd prefer it.
You're a pain in the ass.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Shapiro leaves. Lights out. Ruby enters the jail cell, where Van is crumpled up in a ball on his bed.
Good morning, sunshine. Is there anything I can do for you today?
I saw a coyote chasing a rabbit and they was both walking.
I wish you could see that sunrise out there. How can anyone look at the sunrise and say that there is no God?
Well, I feel like a piece of shit circling the toilet bowl.
You had a hard night.
They're looking at me like I'm a piece of shit circling the toilet bowl.
But we're going to see if we can do something to make it better. I brought you some homemade pudding.
Who the hell are you? Oh. Yeah, I remember now.
Would you like some banana pudding? I bet it would taste real good to you about now.
What, without a blindfold or a cigarette?
She hands him the pan and a wooden spoon.
Here you go. I like what you have done with the place. There's no foul in there. Just banana pudding. I made it myself. I thought you might like it. It was my husband and son's favorite.
Damn, can't you ever shut up?
Sometimes.
Because you didn't hear what happened last night.
They told me you tried to hang yourself.
They told you that? Is that what they told you? Because that's a goddamn lie. You hear me, Shapiro? That's a goddamn lie. Death would be a luxury compared to this hellhole. Having to look at you.
Would it help if I brought you some homemade dinners? What's your favorite?
Fried chicken.
Mine too.
Oh, shocking.
I'll just let you eat your banana pudding while I knit.
You gotta be kidding me. You know what you are?
Yes, I do.
You're a pain in the ass.
I've heard. Does anyone come to see you?
Nope.
Is there anyone in your life?
Nope.
Don't you have any lady friends?
Nope.
Any children?
None that I know of.
Is there anyone you would like for me to contact for you?
Nope.
Nice vocabulary. I know it's no fun to be in here all alone with no one to talk to. So I thought we could just talk. We could just start out sharing stories and go from there. Should be pretty simple. If you'd rather just eat now, I could go first. I'm a natural talker. I always have been. It's probably gotten me into a lot of trouble too. I usually speak my mind. I have to pray every day. Lord, please don't let me talk too much today. I guess I could ask you if there's anything you want to talk about first. Is there anything you would like to talk about first?
Nope.
Okay, that's honest. I like that. I like honesty. Let's see. I guess I could tell you a funny story to break the ice. It's pretty funny. It's about how I met my husband.
This should be a riot.
I was walking home from work late one night, and I noticed this man was following me and getting closer and closer. Now, I was ready for him because I have a gun and I will use it without least hesitation. Or I can kick high if I need to, and my aim is excellent. When he got close, I recognized him from seeing him around town. We didn't travel in the same circles. He was one of those holy rollers who was always up in church, and I didn't want to have anything to do with them. Since I needed to get home to check on my daddy, I figured I needed to take control of the situation.
Setting, the past. Ruby is walking down a dark street, being followed by Carlton. She wheels around and points her gun at him.
Hey, now, hold on. I just want to say hello and that I enjoyed your work.
You saw me at work?
Yes, ma'am.
And what just did you see?
Oh, enough.
And what were you doing in there?
Well, because you were there.
Oh, so you spying on me?
If I like something, I would wear it to the ground. I'm like a dog with an old bone.
Oh, gee, thanks.
But things first, let me introduce myself. I'm Carlton Diamond, and you're gonna marry me.
Do you see me holding this gun on you?
Hey, you know I'm gonna keep asking you until you finally say yes, so you might as well save us both some trouble and just get it over with, because I will wear you down.
You really are conceited, aren't you? You don't even know me. Why haven't you asked one of them gals at your church to marry you? Why'd you have to come out here and bother me?
I don't want none of them other gals at my church. I want you.
The only reason you want me because I don't want you.
Well, that ain't it at all. You see, God told me you are the one I'm supposed to marry.
You really want me to shoot you, don't you? Get on out of here. You're starting to make me mad now.
Ruby, I ain't lying. I'm serious as a heart attack. You are supposed to marry me.
Look, you're a nice guy and all. No. I'll take that back. You're an idiot. Now, let me go home. I gotta fix dinner for my daddy. And when he gets hungry, he gets cranky.
Or you can get pretty cranky yourself. I saw you hit that white man on the head with his banjo.
Well, he blew my act with his lousy spot.
Oh, I liked it that way.
And I thought you were supposed to be a holy roller.
Oh, I still got a pulse.
So I see.
I think the white man running the spotlight helped your act.
I can't stand that man.
Ruby, you can't.
Why not?
How many commandments are there in the Bible?
I think I got this.
Okay.
10. And none of them say anything about not hating the man that blew my act.
Wrong. There are 11.
You're wrong.
How much you want to bet?
Well, if I'm right, you got to get on out of here and leave me alone.
Deal. But you're going to have to get used to me, because Jesus said, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another.
Don't you think there's a time for some righteous anger?
Baby, holding a grudge is like drinking poison to get back at the other person.
You better get on out of here before I shoot a hole clean right through you.
Then we better get a move on.
You're not going?
Come on, just get to know me. Just walk with me. You have to walk anyway. You may as well walk with me.
Okay. But just to get rid of you. But I'm going to keep my gun aimed on you. Don't you get any ideas this is going any farther, Carlton Diamond.
Taste and see. The Lord is good. I knew it. I knew you'd give in once you saw how charming I was.
Carlton Diamond, you're about as charming as a rattlesnake.
Van licks the last of the pudding off the spoon as Ruby knits.
For some reason, the gun didn't scare him any. We were married 2 months later.
You little minx.
And then 9 months after that, Carlton Jr. was born.
Boy, you people don't waste any time, do you?
I guess Carlton had been right. He showed me the kind of love I didn't think was possible.
What happened to your daddy?
Snake bit him and he died. You'd have thought he would have built up some resistance with all that alcohol in him. Should have seen that snake stagger away. He couldn't even find the hole he came out of.
Are you making that up?
Am I? You kind of like that, don't you?
Now what a bunch of corn! And who told you could cook? This tastes like shit.
Van throws the empty pan across the cell.
The first people to boo the play are always the ones with free tickets.
Yeah, well, you know what? I wouldn't give this to my dog. Let's not do this anymore. I'll just eat the slop they give me. At least I know it won't kill me. And why do you always have to talk about your family? Y'all sound like a bunch of idiots to me. Hey, you may not realize it, but when you talk, hey, there's a newsflash. Nobody's listening. And why come here? I don't want to see you. I know you sure as hell can't enjoy it either. It may come as a shock to you, but I'm not the most charming person to be around. I ain't no matinee idol. I know it, and I know you don't think so either. I just want to be left alone. Let me have some peace and quiet before I die. You're wasting your time. I mean, why do this? What were you really hoping to get out of it?
Van stands and lunges toward her.
You some kind of freak? It ain't exactly ladylike coming here all alone to a man's cell, you know. You secretly wanted me, didn't you? You women are all alike. Colored, white, don't matter. You were just hoping I'd lay you. No one else would have you. Look at you, all used up. Thought I'd feel sorry for you. You got me captive here. So where else would I turn? You hoped I'd fall in love with you.
He grabs Ruby and pins her against the wall.
You want me. You always wanted a white man, didn't you? That's why you're doing this. You thought this was your chance. You knew there weren't no other women around, so why wouldn't I? Well, I'd French kiss one of these guards out here before I'd ever touch you. Now get the hell out of here before I call a guard and tell him what you're really up to. Guard!
He releases Ruby. She collects herself as she picks up the pan, spoon, and her knitting.
I've been thrown out of better places.
She walks slowly out of the jail cell. Lights out.
Let Jesus lead you. Let Jesus lead you. Let Jesus lead you all the way from earth to heaven. Let Jesus lead you all the way. He's a mighty good leader. He's a mighty good leader.
Setting: Ruby and Carlton's bedroom. Ruby dozes in bed. Carlton enters and kisses her cheek.
You look like someone they forgot to bury.
Carlton, This is a waste of time. This man wants nothing to do with me.
Well, you didn't want anything to do with me either.
I tried to get rid of you. I even threatened to shoot you, but it didn't work.
You could have aimed a cannon at me, and it would not have mattered.
I don't deserve you. I never did.
Well, be thankful none of us ever gets what we truly deserve.
Just seeing you at night, it's not enough for me.
Well, at least we have this. We have this quality time. It's special. And there's no one else but you and me.
I miss you every minute of the day. You cast a mighty shadow. What have I gotten myself into? What can I do with a pitiful little man who will never get out of his cell?
Well, he may be behind bars, but he has the power to be free.
Lights out.
Gentlemen, put a shirt on. Step on out. Lunchtime. Get on the way back. Make sure you give me your name.
Setting. Another day. Van sits on his bed using an old sock to dig mink oil out of a tin, which he slathers onto his black shoes he's shining. Ruby sits in her chair, knitting. There is uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. Every once in a while, Van will look up to see if Ruby is looking at him. As soon as she does, he goes back to his shining. Ruby looks back down at her knitting. Then she looks up to see if Van is looking at her. As soon as he does, she goes back to her knitting. Ruby knits, Van shines. Neither says anything nor looks up from their task. Van's shining becomes more and more frenzied until it seems he's going to explode. Ruby doesn't look happy either. Lights out. Setting. Another day. Ruby and Van each sit in their usual spot. Van on his bed shining his shoes, Ruby sitting in the chair knitting. There is an uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. Every once in a while, Van will look up to see if Ruby is looking at him. As soon as she does, he goes back to his shining. Ruby looks back down at her knitting, then looks up to see if Van is looking at her. As soon as he does, she goes back to her knitting.
I caught you peeking.
All that means is that you were peeking too.
Now that we've established that we're a couple of peekers,
You know, you're boring the hell out of me.
I'm bored myself if we're speaking frankly here.
Well, you think I'm boring?
As dull as watching mud crack.
Well, you're no prize yourself. I mean, all you do is knit. I got a good mind to go into solitaire, just get away from you.
Is Dr. Shapiro still giving you pills?
He says it helps me.
What do you think?
It helps me not remember.
If you could do anything you wanted to today, what would it be?
I just want to sit here and do nothing. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to do anything.
Well, just sit there and rock for all I care. I'm going to knit.
Good. And I'll just ignore you like I always do.
I'd rather just knit anyway.
No, I don't understand you at all.
Ruby nearly faints.
Hey. You all right?
And no ain't for sissies. Just add these high flashes to a long list of things I won't miss when I die.
You know what I miss the most? You really want to know? Fishing. Nothing better in this world than fishing.
You sound like my son. You remind me of him in some ways.
It's just so peaceful and quiet. especially at night. You get that nibble on your line and a little splash of water breaks the silence. It's the most exciting sound in all the world.
That could be a blessing. You won't have to clean them.
No, I love that part too. I could do it in my sleep.
I just never could stand the smell. Fish have such a fishy smell.
That's why I like that about it too.
Dr. Shapiro says that many of our memories are based in smell. Smell can trigger memories as way back as our childhood.
Yeah. Well, I'll never have that smell again.
Lights out. Setting. Another day. Van is writhing on his bed.
Oh, how dare you turn your back on me? Don't you turn your back on me. You got a smart mouth on you. Don't you shaft me. I deserve respect. You better give me respect I deserve. You better give me respect or I'll give you something to respect.
Ruby enters the cell.
Is there anything I can do for you today?
So you ever say.
It's such a beautiful day out there.
That's the other thing you always say. Why you gotta rub it in my face for?
You're looking mighty fine today.
Oh, stop lying.
I'm not lying.
You can't face the truth.
What do you want?
Oh, here you go again.
Are you walking that dog? Or is that dog walking you? Who's the master and who's the slave?
Slavery doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, yes, it does.
It's the one sin they'll let me do.
Just promise me you won't smoke in bed. What do you want to happen? What do you want to happen to you today? If you could do anything today, any experience, what would it be?
I don't need you to be my psychiatrist.
It's a simple question, Van.
Well, if I could have anything I wish, it sure as hell couldn't happen in here.
Why not? The only thing stopping you is you.
Now, you're the one who sounds crazy.
Why can't you just enjoy the time we have together?
Enjoy this?
How can you be so cruel?
Cross patch, cross patch.
Not to me, to yourself. How can you be so cruel to yourself? How can you rob yourself of the time that you have left in your life?
What a pathetic pair we are. God's playing some kind of grand joke on us. I mean, he's up there laughing his ass off. But I wish you'd just have your laugh and move on to someone else.
Lights out. Setting. Dr. Shapiro's prison office. Dr. Shapiro reclines, deep in thought, as he drinks gin from a dirty glass. Ruby enters.
Dr. Shapiro, you wanted to see me?
Yes. Mrs. Donnan, please have a seat. Would you like something to drink? And that is gin.
No, thank you.
You know it's not polite to refuse your host when they offer you something.
Dr. Shapiro, I'm sure you didn't invite me to your office to drink. What can I do for you?
You know, you're looking a little thin. You'd better let us give you a physical.
I'm fine. You look a little sad.
Sad? No. Full of romantic melancholy, perhaps. Sometimes I have to go out and bum a cigarette in the alley, but I'm not sad about it. And that's how people burn to death in hotel rooms. I think it's time you admitted that you were wrong and stopped this spectacle and salvage some of your dignity. It's not working. Look, you tried, and it was a very admirable attempt, but we're dealing with an evil bastard. There are just some people who are beyond our help, and it's best to realize that as soon as possible and move on.
Move on to what?
Life.
This is the hand I was dealt.
Mrs. Diamond, enough with playing the sanctimonious martyr. It doesn't suit you.
Sanctimonious? Is that what you think I am?
So have you been able to scour the dank labyrinth of Van's soul?
It'll happen when he's ready. Why are you here, Dr. Shapiro?
What do you mean?
What are you trying to accomplish?
I just keep things from falling apart.
Is that why you took this job? Is that why you went to school and worked so hard? To keep things from falling apart?
Mrs. Diamond, I've been here a long time. I guess I'm a masochist drawn toward the Sturm and Drang. I've seen it all. I know these men and I know this world. Now, I had stars in my eyes at one time, just like you, but I got over it. I learned to face reality. I came to grips with the truth. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
The only difference between genius and stupidity is that there is a limit to genius.
Mrs. Diamond.
Yes?
You're a pain in the ass.
Thank you.
She leaves. Lights out. Setting, another day. Ruby knits while Van shines his shoes. They both look bored, as usual.
Don't you ever get tired of knitting? I mean, when will that monstrosity ever be finished? I don't know why they make us polish our shoes. It's not like we're going anywhere.
Van puts his shoe up on an old wooden box and begins to buff it madly with an old clean sock.
The lunacy of having shined shoes. I get my shoes shined up because they make me, that's all, no other reason. And you knit because you got nothing better to do.
I've had my share of dull moments. I love knitting because my mama used to knit. It's the only thing I remember her doing. It's the only thing she passed on to me, and I guess it's the only thing I know how to do. It's peaceful and relaxing to me. And I'd like to think I'm creating something that might be here after I'm gone. My husband always said, invest in the things that will outlive you.
What a pair we are. You just knit, and I just shine. Shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky. I ain't had no love since January, February, June, or July. That's the punishment. That's the worst torture. Making us shine our shoes and then hitting us with the fact that we'll have shiny shoes, but nowhere to go.
Look, I've been thinking. It's time you made something of your life. I think once you've decided what you wanted and what you want to do with yourself, you wouldn't need those pills anymore. I think if you're busy working and focusing on others, you won't have time to think about your own troubles. You've been depressed long enough. Time to get on with it. We need to find you some kind of vocation.
Vocation? They got me chopping rocks. That's my vocation.
No, that's your job. But you need a purpose, a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to live. You're just waiting to die, living with no purpose.
I'm in jail.
Doesn't matter.
Well, not to you. You're free.
We all have had our own prisons. You can still dance.
The hell are you talking about?
Once you lose the sense of thirst, it's a sign you're dying.
Nit.
You need to make the most of your time you've got left. And I think the best way to find a way is to help the folks that are in here.
They don't want my help. These guys are hard. They just want to be left alone to die.
You know, there's that prison Bible study. Ever thought about going?
Yeah, I thought about not going. You know, I was brought up Catholic. I saw too much hypocrisy. No thanks. I'd rather watch hair grow. The last thing I remember about church was asking my mama why there was a plaque on the wall with all these names on it. And she told me, well, those are the names of all the men that died in the service. And I said, which one? The 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock? Ha, ha, ha.
That joke is as old as grandma's toes and twice as corny. If you're going to lie, at least be creative. We all need help at some point. Have you ever thought about having some meetings? Maybe just a few of you get together and talk about how you feel. Talk about what you think is going to happen after you die.
Nothing happens. We're dead. We rot.
Oh, Van, if we believe that, life has no meaning.
Lights out. Setting, another day. Ruby knits as Van shines his shoes. Neither speak or look up from their task. Ruby looks unhappy. Van's shining becomes more frenzied until it seems he's going to explode.
Don't you ever feel empty when you come in here and see all this?
Of course.
You know, I'd rather be dead and just experience nothing than stay here.
What would your mama think of what you become? What would she think of you just giving up now?
What have you done with your life? You ain't so much. And another thing I don't understand, why y'all coloreds haven't made more yourselves? Slavery's over, it's been over for years. And y'all still amounted to nothing. And why is that? You so smart, you tell me. I mean, other people from other places, other countries, they come here and they do fine, they prosper, they succeed. They make something of themselves. But not y'all. Y'all that's living like you're still slaves. You so smart. Tell me why that is.
Generational curses are hard to break.
What the hell is that?
A generational curse is a problem that is passed down from generation to generation. Whether it be alcoholism, violence, poor education, or being brought to another country against your will. Being cut off from your background and not knowing what your background even is. That might have something to do with it. It's just a theory of mine. But when you don't have any connection to your past, you do the best you can with the hand that you've been dealt. And not everyone makes the best choices in a bad situation.
Where do you get all these ideas?
I learned everything from my husband, Carlton. He read everything he could get his hands on to. He was a man determined to break any pattern of a curse that had been passed on to him. And that was the curse of poverty and no education. He had come from a long line of poor farmers who had descended from slaves. They had nothing and couldn't seem to get out of their rut. He worked hard and became a landowner. He had decided he didn't like his fate and was going to change it. As for my own family, my daddy was one of those who didn't react to the hand dealt to him. He trashed my mom and me. She left him. I can't blame her, but she was my mother. He loved to drink, as well as his father before him and his father before him. That's why I don't drink. I saw what it did to him. He wasn't the same person. He could be the sweetest, most gentle person in the whole world. But then he started to drink, and it was like staring into the face of Satan himself. I think you might know a little bit about this yourself.
You don't know that.
He stands and hovers over Ruby.
You think you know everything. Can you read my mind? Can you tell me what I'm thinking right now? Tell me what it says in your crystal ball.
Why did you kill them? I'm convinced it's something more than just hate.
Why do you do this? What does it matter? You don't need to know everything.
If you tell me, we can share the burden so your load won't be lighter. That's what friends do.
Friends? That's what you think we are?
We could be, if you let us. Don't you think it's time you trusted someone? We all have our own bag of problems.
I was watching you when you didn't know it. I moved through the shadows at night and no one saw me. It's amazing when you can observe when no one knows you're watching them. That's when they really show you who they really are. I saw how you were together. It reminded me of my own mother. She was a fine Christian just like you. But I'm not. And I guess you figured that out. It bored me. All y'all good folks bore me. I enjoyed moving through the shadows. I like the darkness. It's the only place I really feel at home, where I can see you, but you can't see me. You know a little something about darkness yourself. I can see that in your eyes. You think you've seen darkness? You haven't seen darkness. Have you ever been raped? My mama was raped. You see, I know a little something about generational curses too. So she got up from the dirt, brushed herself off, and went on with her life. Being the good Christian lady she was, she said she didn't want to punish the child for the father's sin.
What happened to that child?
You're looking at him. She chose to carry me, raise me. My mama made sure I went to school and got an education. She had studied hard to become a nurse. She always told me we were put on this earth to help each other. And she practiced what she preached. She would stop in at the little village of trash south of the tracks every Sunday after church. She would tend to those who were sick and couldn't do for themselves. I figured the man who raped her was one of the people she had taken care of. Some thanks, huh? She'd always bring me with her. She'd hold out her little pinky and I'd grab hold and walk beside her. She was like an angel to me. The thing I remember most about her was her smell. She always smelled of jasmine. And whenever I smell jasmine on a hot summer night, I feel she's near me.
What happened to her?
She died. She caught scarlet fever from one of her patients and died. I was raised by my granddaddy after that. My mama's daddy and his daddy were farmers, so I had to be one too. It was decided for me, not that I was any good at it. It was just handed for me to do. Never had any talent to do anything, just farmed the land I inherited. See, I had asthma as a kid, and I was scrawny and weak, and I couldn't hang out and play with the other kids, so I just stayed myself. Eventually, my granddaddy died from what the doctors call consumption, whatever the hell that is. I think it's just something they say when they don't know. And after that, I was just left with the farm and a lot of guilt. Damaged goods.
I've known that feeling myself. And you're right. You are damaged goods by yourself. You need help. We've all had to have help sometime in our life. You repay that by what you make of your life.
Why do you care?
I've known those same feelings you have.
Big deal.
Ruby looks at him as if she's seeing herself in a mirror for the first time.
The first memory I have in my life is being hit hard. That was my image of a father, someone who hits you hard and knocks you down. It's my image I had of a father. That's my image I had of men, the image I had of God. But Carlton changed all that for me. When Carlton came back from the war, he was staying over in New York for a few days and decided to go to the zoo there. Of all the animals, he was most impressed with the majesty of the African impala. He noticed a sign that said they can jump more than 9 feet high, but he noticed that the fence surrounding the African impala was only about 3 foot high. He asked the tour guide, how come the impala just doesn't jump over the 3 foot high fence? The tour guide said, they have been brought up behind that fence since they were born. They just don't know they can jump 9 feet high. We're just like an African impala. We just don't know the potential we were created for.
Do me a favor. Go back to your mammy routine, because you're a lousy preacher.
Van returns to shining his shoes. Ruby looks like she's been kicked in the stomach. Lights out.
Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. I can't make my living around this town, 'cause tricks ain't walking no more. I said tricks ain't walking.
Ruby's setting. Ruby stares at herself in her mirror.
Mammy? Mammy?
She turns sideways and smooths her dress tight as she examines her figure. Carlton walks up behind her. He puts his arms around her waist and kisses her neck.
Do you think I'm a mammy?
Huh?
Van called me a mammy.
Carlton drops to one knee.
I walk 1,000,000 miles for one of your smiles, my mammy.
Why can't you just ever let me be mad? You always got to make me smile. I wasn't sure if I'd see you tonight.
You know I'm here every night.
I failed this test.
Well, it's not up to you to get the results. Just plant the seeds. Tell them what God has done for you and that God can do the same thing for him.
You always say the right things, even in the darkest of times. I'll never forget our last day together. I can remember every second of that day. I'd never loved you or respected you more.
Lights out. Setting, a day in the past. Carlton and Junior are fishing. Junior gets a bite, yanks a catfish out of the water, and tosses it into the basket behind him.
Now, why is it I can put garlic cheese, salmon eggs, and all this fancy lures on my line, and all you got to do is drop an empty hook in the water?
You got to hold your mouth just right.
Oh, honorary.
It ain't honorary. I can't help it. I just got the touch.
I think this is my favorite spot in the world, you know? No matter what happens, I'm happy here.
It's all right.
Everything is good and peaceful here.
It's all right.
There we go. You do know that this is where your mama and I spent our honeymoon, right? Right here, this very spot. I didn't have any money to take her anywhere fancy, so I just told her I'd be taking her to my favorite place in the world, and she was happy to be here.
She was just being nice.
Oh, honoree. This is where you were conceived, in the exact spot where you're sitting now.
Why you gotta go and tell me that?
And that is done by putting.
Dad. I know how it's done.
You know?
Yes, Dad, I know about the birds and the bees.
How'd you know?
The boys at school talk about it.
Then why didn't you stop me sooner?
I wanted to see what kind of crazy story you were going to come up with, but I just couldn't bear to see you suffer like that.
You just wait until you have a son someday and have to tell him. I'm just going to laugh too.
They share a quiet moment just looking out at the water, enjoying the simple pleasure of just being together on a beautiful day.
Mm-hmm. You know what? This is happiness right here. I'm happy right now. This is what life is all about right here. Simple as that. I'm happy. I'm a happy man.
You're a happy man.
This potato salad makes me feel happy and content. I'm not sure why, but it does.
It does.
Food brings back memories from the past.
Potato salad does all that?
Yes, it does. Reminds me of church picnics in the summer. My dad always made the potato salad in our house, and he was so particular about what he put in it. Pickles, onions, mayonnaise, boiled eggs, and potatoes. Put it all together, and you have ambrosia.
You always get this special sound in your voice when you talk about your dad. I wish I could have known him.
Oh, I wish you could have too. He would have been crazy about you. I learned everything I know from him, and I've tried to pass it on to you.
Oh, so I could blame him for this potato salad and all those stories you tell me.
Well, do you like it?
It's just potato salad.
You say that now. Wait a few years. You'll feel different. You appreciate the things you take for granted now.
Is that why Old Man Jenkins always says youth is wasted on the wrong people?
Oh, no. He's just mean. I wanted us to have this little picnic so we could just get away by ourselves, just as men, and talk about your future now that you are 17 and what you're going to do with your life. Look, Junior, I know you idolize me, but let's just say I ain't always had the best past. I want to give you something to help you remember just where I came from.
He hands his son a beautiful pocket knife.
Dad, this is beautiful. But I'll probably just lose it in the whorehouse.
Now, you don't make me get up off this stump and put a knot on your head, boy.
Seriously. It's beautiful. But why you want to give it to me?
Well, like I said, your daddy didn't have the most spotless past. Your daddy got caught up with some kids when he was younger that used to rob people at night on that road that we take to cut through to go to the picture show. One night, one of the kids pulled a knife out on the old white lady. Well, she turned around and she pulled out a bigger knife on us and we all ran off. Well, as we were running off, one of the boys pushed the white lady and she fell on her knife. I could tell she was hurt bad, needed some help, so I couldn't just leave her there, even though I knew I'd be in trouble. I carried her to the hospital in my arms and they patched her up. She treated me like a son from then on and for some reason gave me that knife. It was an act of kindness that turned my life around. She left me the little money she had and that's how I was able to buy a farm, and that knife was the one she fell on. She made me promise that I would do something good for someone else. And that's what I'm doing now.
Junior examines the knife.
Thanks. And I'll try not to lose it in the whorehouse.
You stay out of them whole houses.
I'm kidding. Now, I got a very important question I want to ask you.
Mm. And what's that?
Could you pass the fried chicken?
Press the wing.
Drumstick.
Carlton hands him a drumstick as Ruby walks up and joins them.
Y'all need to stop talking and start catching. You're gonna scare the fish away.
I was trying to be quiet, but Dad's always gotta talk.
Now you better act like you got some good sense.
Ooh, what's that smell?
Oh,
What are you using for bait?
My own concoction. Garlic cheese and salmon eggs.
Haven't you ever heard of worms?
Worms? You can't get no catfish with worms.
I caught one with the empty hook.
Ornery.
Good old-fashioned night crawlers have always worked for me.
Baby, could you hold my line for one moment? I got to go powder my nose.
Ruby takes the fishing pole and sits down next to their son.
Well, good, because y'all just playing around here.
Big talker.
Carlton heads to the bushes.
Mama, I want to talk to you about something.
Go ahead.
I want to be a nightclub singer.
Pass the potato salad.
Did you hear what I said?
I heard you. When did you decide that?
Like Cab Calloway.
Cab Calloway. You know that's not an easy field of work to go into, especially for colored folk.
Haven't you always said I can be anything I wanted to be, do anything I wanted to do?
And I still believe that. I just want what's best for you. I know a little bit more about that world than you do. And it's a tough world to be a part of. Someday when you have your own children, you'll understand how I feel. You know, your dad and I, we didn't always have the best past.
So I heard.
We've seen a lot and done a lot of things we're not proud of. And we've worked real hard to get it right, to live the kind of life we can both be proud of.
Mama, are you saying that if I was a nightclub singer, you wouldn't be proud of me?
I'm saying it'll put you in places, in situations that are tempting.
And you don't think I can handle it?
You're human. You got feet of clay just like the rest of us. I don't tell you everything I've done in my past, so you're just gonna have to trust me when I tell you that that kind of lifestyle is hard.
You want me to be a farmer?
No, I really don't. I want you to be whatever God made you to be.
What if God made me to be a nightclub singer?
I knew you were gonna say that. I'm your mama, which means I care about the kind of life you have.
Just because I say this, I don't want you to say it back. I love you.
I love you too.
Carlton returns.
Me too. I'm a happy man.
You're a happy man. Well, I'm happy you're happy. Even though that potato salad is starting to stink.
What? It is not. That's good. You eat it.
You know your daddy loves him some potato salad.
You know I could sit here forever, right?
That's good, because we only have one catfish, and that isn't going to be enough for this elaborate Valentine's Day dinner you've got planned.
Okay, we've only got about another half an hour because we got to go to the picture show.
Yeah, you better give me that line.
Ooh, I got a nibble.
Taste and see. The Lord is good.
I've got a big one. But you're going to have to clean it because you know I can't stand that smell.
Lights out.
Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make.
Setting. Later that night, Ruby, Carlton, and Junior walk home.
Bela Lugosi was so sexy with that accent of his. And the way he could hypnotize the ladies, of course, those of us up in the balcony were right level with his eyes.
I want to suck your blood.
Yeah, well, I got my cross right here.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Will you be my Valentine?
Just this once.
They kiss.
Hey, I'm still here. Don't get too carried away.
Will you be my Valentine?
Nope, I already got one.
It's too bad Sarah couldn't come with us tonight.
Well, you know how she is about studying for that gall darn Sunday school class she teaches.
CJ, you watch your language.
I didn't say anything. I said gall darn.
But that's just another way for taking the Lord's name in vain. Now, don't act like I never told you that.
Now, Mom, you know I love God. It's just his people that get on my nerves.
Well, I'm one of his people. Do I get on your nerves?
Sometimes. I'm teasing. No, but it's the hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy?
You know, like when we're all holding hands and singing Blessed Assurance, and someone tries to sit down next to someone and they say, that seat is saved. Or someone walks in that hasn't been to church in a while, and Sister Washington turns to Sister Taylor and says, look what the cat dragged in. Or when Sister Williams is getting prayed for up at the altar and she looks behind her to see if she's going to hit a chair when she falls back before going under the power.
I never did understand that either. I told the pastor we shouldn't catch him. I said we should just let him hit the ground, and if it's real, they'll be all right. If it's not real, they deserve to get their head knocked.
And the way folks have to sit in the same pew every Sunday, and for the dumbest reasons, they'll tell you, that pew has my tear stains on it.
Well, that's no excuse not to go to church. It's a hospital for sinners, not a museum for saints.
I'm not talking about being perfect, but some of those women might as well be using witchcraft the way they try and catch a husband.
Now watch yourself.
I actually heard Sister Washington tell Sister Taylor, that man is mine, I claim him, and he'll be mine. Just as soon as he gets his divorce.
It takes all kinds.
And the funniest thing is when Sister Johnson lays those modesty cloths around the women who have fallen under the spirit to cover their legs. And you know, Sister Johnson is wearing the shortest cut dress in there.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil.
And remember when you started dancing in the spirit and knocked Sister Washington's wig off? What came out of that mouth was not speaking in tongues.
What a comedian.
Encourage him.
Oh, come on. You know, it's funny. There are some characters up in that church.
Carlton and Ruby embrace.
Look at that moon, would you? I think that looks like a magical wishing moon. And if you make a wish upon it, it'll come true.
Then make a wish.
I already made a wish upon it. Come on, dance with me. Come on, it's Valentine's Day, for crying out loud.
Carlton, you know I don't dance.
I've seen you cut a rug up at the church.
That's for the Lord, not out on some dirt road in the middle of the country.
Come on, honey. Just try it this once. It's the moonlight. I can't help myself.
They start dancing.
You know, you're not bad. I mean, you know Bojangles, but you're not half bad.
Well, you know, the woman is always the best dancer of the team.
Uh-huh. And why is that?
Because she has to do everything the man does and do it backwards and in heels.
You know, there were these missionaries in Africa who converted this tribe to Christianity and told them now that they were saved, they couldn't dance anymore. And from that point on, that tribe was known as those who don't dance. I always thought that was the saddest thing I ever heard. They took something that should have made them happy, but instead made them sad about it. The ones who have the Lord should be the ones dancing.
Did your father tell you that one?
That's one of my own.
See what you created?
Oh, you helped.
You two won't mind if I head back into town and get a couple of drinks over at the Itchy Kitty?
Suddenly a voice cuts through the night like a knife.
Where you folks think you're going?
Home, sir. We're on our way home from the picture show.
Well, you're passing through my property and there's a toll.
Well, sir, I understood this was a public road.
Well, you see, that's where you're wrong. This road passes through part of my property.
We were all born here and we pay taxes. We are Americans.
No, I thought y'all probably Chinese. My watermelons keep showing up missing, and I know it's from you folks using this road that cuts through my land as a shortcut. I hear y'all out here every night walking through here and carrying on, laughing your heads off like idiots.
Friend, we have no quarrel with you.
But I have a quarrel with you. I promised myself I'd shoot anyone that crossed my land without my permission. It's my right.
We were under the impression that this was a public road. We had no intentions of crossing your land. Now, if you would just excuse us, we would be on our way. Good night, sir.
You folks trying to sneak into my watermelon patch?
We have our own watermelon patch, sir.
Man steps out of the darkness.
You got a smart mouth on you, boy.
He's not a boy, he's a man.
I'm sure your watermelons are delicious, but we'll just be on our way.
Well, thank you, Uncle Tom.
Carlton?
I hate to disappoint you, but that's not the first time I've been called that, and it probably won't be the last. It doesn't hurt me anymore. There was a time when it did, but not anymore. And just because you say it, it doesn't make it so. No, you don't frighten me. Neither does that gun. I know who you are, and I'm not afraid. Neither is my son, and neither is my wife. And that's why we're going to turn around and make our way home. Good night.
Carlton takes his son by the shoulder, grabs his wife's hand, and leads the three of them back down the road toward home.
Don't you turn your backs to me.
Keep walking with your heads held high.
Did you hear me? Don't you turn your backs to me. Don't you disrespect me. Don't turn your backs to me.
Keep walking with your heads held high.
Junior whips out his new knife and lunges at Van. He drops down dead, his hand still holding the knife his father gifted him, resting on his heart. Van stares at Ruby, cocks his rifle, and walks away, leaving Ruby standing in the middle of the road. Rushes over to Junior and lifts his limp body into a bear hug. He's gone. She turns to Carlton, gently cradling his face in her hands.
Ruby, forgive him.
He dies. Lights out. Setting. Later after the verdict.
Now, I know this is an unusual case. It's not often that a white man is convicted of killing a black man. But because of your history and because of the testimony of the eyewitnesses who saw the whole incident from a few yards away, the jury has convicted you, Mr. Vanderbrook. Mrs. Diamond, what do you want? How should justice be done to this man who has so brutally destroyed your family?
I want three things. I want first to be taken to the place where my husband's body was burned so that I can gather up the dust and give his remains a decent burial. My husband and son were my only family. I want secondly, therefore, for Mr. Vanderbrook to become my son. I would like to visit him every day so that I can pour out on him whatever love I still have remaining in me. This is also the wish of my husband. And thirdly, I would like Mr. Vanderbrook to know that I forgive him because I have been forgiven. Now I would kindly ask someone to come to my side and lead me across the courtroom so that I could take Mr. Vanderbroek in my arms and embrace him and let him know that he is truly forgiven.
Out. End of Act 1. Act 2. Setting. Later. Dr. Shapiro pours a drink as Ruby enters.
Oh, Mrs. Diamond, thanks for coming. Have a seat. A man with such ugly thoughts writes such beautiful music. You know, they say Hitler got all his ideas from Wagner. What do you think of Hitler, Mrs. Diamond?
Well, some of my friends say he's the Antichrist.
But what do you think?
I think he's going to be a problem. I hear he's relocating the Jews. They say it's for their own protection, but isn't being abducted from your home and having all your possessions confiscated worse than being unprotected?
Would you join me for a drink? Please?
Well, maybe just this once.
Well, a precedent is being broken. Happy days. Oh, I gave serious consideration to reading the ramblings of my journal tonight. Realized it was a waste of a good time to drink. I'd like to drink a toast to another day done, and hopefully things are a little better than they were the day when the day started. Great strides take small steps. Who said that? Oh, someone. I can't remember.
Paul Robeson.
Oh, yeah. That football player who made them change the words to Old Man River.
My husband told me about it.
Well, yeah, I usually stop over at the Hellhole Cafe for a drink. You know, they call this prison Hellhole.
I've heard.
Yeah, it's a pretty accurate description.
It could be these are products of the problem rather than causes of the problem. Victor Hugo said, where there is darkness, crimes will be committed.
You love your books, don't you?
You love your gin, don't you?
I suppose it's a poor substitute.
For what?
I don't really know. Something. Do you think I'm going to hell because I'm a Jew?
No.
You know, there must be something wrong with this gin. I'm having absolutely no effect on me. Oh, you're a snake charmer, Mrs. Diamond.
What?
Oh, you remind me of when I was a little boy. My mama would take me to the circus. Most of the other kids loved the clowns. Wanted to see the elephants dance on the balls, watch the lion tamers whip the lions into submission, or see that beautiful lady in the pink tights way up there on the wire. I was different. I loved the sideshow, more commonly known as the freak show. The Barker's call hypnotized me. For only a dime, 10 cents, the 10th part of a dollar. I was under his spell. And we called them freaks. They had a code of honor they followed. They felt they were earning a good living the only way they could. And they were stars. Here they were accepted. Here they were protected. There was always a snake charmer. And there was always a tattoo lady. Is this Lydia? Oh, Lydia, say, have you met Lydia? Lydia, the tattooed lady. When her muscles start relaxing up the hill comes Andrew Jackson. Lydia, oh Lydia, that encyclopedia. Lydia, the queen of tattoo. For 2 bits, she will do a mazurka in jazz with a view of Niagara that nobody has. And on a clear day, you can see Alcatraz. You can learn a lot from Lydia. The sideshow. I guess I was drawn to it because that's where I belong. I was the bearded lady, the Siamese twins, the dwarf, the dog-faced boy. Felt a kinship with all these outcasts because I was one too. As time went on, I embraced it. There's power in embracing the truth. It's admitting to the way things are. And now I run my own freak show. Now I'm the Carnival Barker. Just trying to keep these people from killing themselves. Or the rest of us.
Why do you think you're a freak?
I can't feel. But I'm used to it.
That's not good.
Oh, there are compensations. Freedom to do as I please when I please.
Freedom can be lonely.
In your readings, have you ever studied about the relationship between a person who commits a homicide and their victims?
I try not to make a habit of it.
The relationship between a person who commits a homicide with their victim and their loved ones is extremely intimate. It's an intimacy that the victim never sought or desired, yet it is an intimacy that can never be broken.
It's a club I'd rather not have joined.
Lights out. Setting, the next day. Van, wearing only shorts, is changing his clothes as Ruby walks in on him.
Anything I can do for you today?
Damn, don't you ever knock?
I thought I was in a museum for a minute. I thought I was looking at a statue of Michelangelo.
Full of jokes today, huh?
Laughter is good for the soul like a medicine.
I don't think we have the same sense of humor.
Ruby pulls out her knitting. She suddenly seems sad.
Yeah.
This color does nothing for my eyes.
Then why'd you pick it?
Because I wanted to.
You're in a mood today.
Yes, I'm in a mood today.
Why are you in a mood?
Because I miss my husband. It's our anniversary.
How many years were you married?
18. I wasn't too bad looking. My husband used to call me his chocolate-covered cherry.
Oh, not on an empty stomach, please.
The first time we made love, I asked him if he did it right.
You're gonna have to clean up a big mess if I get sick.
Were you ever married?
You wanna marry me?
I'm sure there was someone. You probably just wasn't paying attention.
There was this one girl. I could have married her, but I didn't.
Why? What happened to her?
Yeah, you got your cute stories about how your husband called you chocolate-covered cherry. Are you sure you can handle mine? They're not so sugary sweet.
Unnoticed, Dr. Shapiro stands outside the cell, watching and taking notes.
You don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
No, I want to. I want to see the look on your face. You know, my mama told me when she was dying what had happened to her, and that I was a child of a rape. She said it didn't change the love she felt for me, and that I should always hold my head up. And I did. Until people started talking. The girl I was in love with, well, she found out about it because the story had gone all over town. I went to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. All she saw was a bastard. She asked me if it was true. If I was a rape bastard. That's all anyone ever saw when they looked at me. A bastard rape child. They see a bastard child and they turn their backs and walk away, but a rape bastard, there's nothing worse. She turned her back to me and started to walk away. So I had to force her to respect me. I had to show her how to respect me. I would get my respect one way or another. Oh, this is bullshit. How did I ever let you talk me into this? Just get your little chocolate-covered cherry shit out of here.
After making a few final notes, Dr. Shapiro steps away, still unnoticed.
I've known those feelings myself. I've had a lot of experience at hitting bottom.
Why do you keep doing this?
Carlton comes to me in my dreams. That's where we live together. Just like Peter Ibbotson. He loved that book and read it over and over again. And that book, two lovers who were separated share time together in their dreams. We continue to live every night in my dreams. He is as real to me as you are sitting there. We talk about my day. I tell him about you. He wants me to help you make something out of yourself. You can make something of the time you have left. You can make it good. It can be better than just getting by.
She pulls Junior's pocket knife out of her knitting bag, along with a small piece of wood, and hands them to Van.
What?
I trust you. I thought you might want to do something else with your time besides shining shoes. My husband used to like to whittle with this knife, and I thought you might like it. I'll bring it with me every day, and you can use it while I'm here. I'll just keep it with my knitting. When I leave, you have to give it back to me. That's the deal.
You gonna trust me with a knife?
I find that if you show a person you trust them, it makes them want to do right.
Why'd you give it to me? I mean, aren't you afraid I'll slice your throat?
No. And I didn't give it to you. I just loaned it while I'm here.
Knit.
Van begins to carve into the wood with the pocket knife while Ruby knits. Lights out. Setting, another day. Van sits with his eyes closed as the doctor paces the room.
Imagine you're walking through a beautiful, deep forest. You see the dew on the leaves of the ferns growing at your feet. Touch the soft moss growing on tree trunks. Feel the freshness of a sweet, new morning. Smell the sweetness of the flowers growing all around you.
This is ridiculous.
Smell it. Now, you're walking through the most beautiful forest you've ever seen, and suddenly you come to an opening in the trees. What do you see?
Big pile of shit.
Don't tell me. Just sense everything around you and how it makes you feel. Now, you walk past this object and you come to a body of water. What type of water is it?
Sewer.
Don't tell me. Just sense all the details. How large is the body of water? What does it look like? Is it smooth? Are there ripples in the water or large waves? Is it calm or stormy?
Ooh, it stinks.
Now, you look across the water and you see someone on the other side. Who is it? What do they look like? What are they doing?
They got a gun and they're going to shoot me in the head.
Van opens his eyes.
What the hell was that about?
Each of the visualizations are supposed to depict various stages of your life. And how you respond to those visualizations can help us define where you might have been injured psychologically, and then we can begin treatment on those areas.
Mm-hmm. I need more pills.
Van, I think it may be time to try something new. There are new treatments being experimented with, and they're showing some very promising results. And there's no need for pills of any kind.
Why not?
Shapiro pours himself a drink. Lights out. Dr. Shapiro stands next to a bed where Van is tied down. He strikes a match on the side of the bed, lights a cigarette, and smokes. Lights out. Setting, another day. Ruby, carrying a covered dish, walks into Van's cell. He sits emotionless and still on the edge of his bed, staring blankly ahead.
Is there anything I can do for you today? I brought you some fried chicken. I figured that was one thing we could agree on. We don't have to talk. We could just lick our fingers till the cows come home.
Van, catatonic, doesn't respond.
Van? What's wrong?
She puts down her dish and tries to snap him out of it.
Van, wake up. I'm here, Van.
She slaps him lightly, then notices how clammy he feels.
Van!
Stare blankly. Ruby runs out of the cell toward Dr. Shapiro's office. Once she gets there, she bursts in without knocking. Seeing the doctor isn't in, she rushes to his desk and starts rummaging through his desk and file cabinets until she finds Van's file. She reads it with growing horror. Dr. Shapiro enters.
Interesting reading.
Shock treatment? You gave him shock treatment?
You gave me no choice. Look, I am responsible for everyone's protection. Mine, yours, and the other patients. And the pills weren't working. Now look, you forget, I hear and know all that goes on here. Van was becoming a danger to all of us, a danger I could not allow under my watch. I won't allow you to threaten my job with your voodoo.
I was making some progress. He was opening up to me.
Oh, I heard. He raped that girl he was going to marry and he killed your family. Now, how much proof do you need that he's a danger to everyone?
He's gone now. He doesn't have any brain left.
Dementia, as advanced as his, must be combated aggressively. Now, there's an alternative treatment where we hammer an ice pick behind the subject's eye socket, severing the connection to the frontal lobes in the brain, rendering the subject docile, if you'd prefer that.
You mean a transorbital lobotomy? You're just sticking something in the brain and mashing it up enough so that the brain doesn't function properly.
You've been reading.
I read.
It corrects the areas of the brain that govern personality and cognitive thought.
That procedure is as barbaric as it is. It's no worse than doping him up on pills or shock treatments. All they do is make him so he can't remember anything. It's easy not to be depressed if you can't remember anything.
I knew this was going to happen. I tried to warn you.
No, you didn't. You tried to discourage me. There's a difference.
Oh, here comes your masochistic instincts again. They are going to be your downfall.
Just because you're a cynic doesn't mean that the rest of us have to be.
You're avoiding the real issue here.
And what's that?
That you failed. And you don't want to admit I was right.
Okay. I failed. And you're right. You happy?
You know, I think after what you've been through, you've assigned some sort of messiah complex to yourself.
What are you talking about?
Not doing anyone any good. Not you, not Van, not your husband, not your son.
I'm trying to find some meaning with what's left with my life.
There. I got you to say it. But you won't find it in here.
Van doesn't have anyone to help him.
Why can't you accept that he doesn't want your help? He killed your family, for God's sake. Did Van ever ask for your forgiveness?
No.
Then you're under no obligation.
He leaves. Lights out. Setting. Another day. Van, still in a catatonic state, sits on the edge of his bed, his face blank. Ruby's in her chair reading from a book of poems by Keats.
A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep. A bower quiet for us and a sleep, full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing.
Suddenly he begins to convulse. Ruby stands and sits next to him on the bed. She dabs away the drool forming at his lips.
I never saw more, never saw the sea, yet know I how the hither looks, and what a wave must be. I never spoke with God, nor visited in heaven, yet certain am I of the spot, as if the chart were given.
She strokes his hair. He is as one dead.
Taste and see. The Lord is good.
Lights out. Setting. Another day. Van is no longer catatonic, but not great. He sits on his bed, elbow propped on the headboard, head in hand. His eyelids are heavy. Ruby's in her chair reading to him.
Though I speak with tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal.
Van nods off and hits his head on the headboard of the bed with a loud clang.
For now we see through a mirror, dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known.
Lights out. Setting. Another day. Van looks a little better. He sits on his bed, whittling. Ruby's in her chair reading.
What are you reading?
Ruby is shocked that he has spoken. She tries to cover her shock and proceed calmly.
But we are all as unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy as rags.
Well, real uplifting stuff. What do you think it means when people say they have no regrets?
It means they're liars. I think what they mean is they could have learned what they needed to learn if they hadn't experienced some things.
Do you have any regrets?
I regret that I never saw the sea. I've always wanted to look out over those waves where my people came from. I hear the water salty. I'd love to taste it on my tongue. Feel the sea breeze on my face. Hear the seagulls calling out. Eat a lobster dinner.
Ruby puts down her book and picks up her knitting.
What are you working on?
None of your business. What are you working on?
None of your business. Would you like to hear some more?
Knit.
Van goes back to his whittling. Ruby returns to her reading. Lights out. Setting. Another day. They're playing spades when Ruby notices Dr. Shapiro slink up outside the cell. She puts her cards down.
Don't look at my cards.
Ruby walks over to the corner of the cell where Dr. Shapiro is standing calmly.
You better watch yourself. There's a rumor going around that some of the inmates cheat.
After a moment, he leaves, and she returns to Van. Lights out. Setting. Another day. Van sits in Ruby's chair while she stands behind him cutting his hair.
Who told you you could cut hair?
Well, I used to cut my husband and sons all the time.
Well, I think that's a little different.
Shut up and sit still.
Why is it so relaxing to have someone touch your head?
It's always relaxing when someone else is doing all the work.
I'll never forget how good it felt to have my mama wash my hair for me on Saturday night. She'd massage my head with her long fingernails. That was the most relaxing thing I ever felt in my life. You ever had someone give you a like shampoo with like long fingernails before?
No.
Nothing like it. You should try it sometime.
Oops.
What? Wait, why'd you say oops?
Oh, nothing. Van, when you comb your hair, comb it like this.
Dr. Shapiro glances at the cell as he walks by, does a double take, and backs up to get another look in disbelief. Van notices and freezes up. Shapiro shakes his head and walks away.
How did you say I should comb my hair?
Like this.
Hair done, Ruby cleans up, grabs her knitting and sits in the chair. Van returns to his bed and begins to whittle.
How did your session go yesterday with Dr. Shapiro?
Dr. Shapiro says most people in prison have one thing in common. They suffer from guilt.
I understand that's one of his theories. But I think blocking out the guilt is what causes depression. The best thing for your depression is to find someone to help.
All we got in this cell block are 4 village idiots. Crazy Barney thinks he's John Wilkes Booth. Loony Larry eats pill bugs. Bald Bob's pulled every hair out of his head body. And a man who calls himself Barber keeps kissing himself in the bathroom mirror.
I see you're still masking your pain with comedy.
Well, I guess I'll just have to add that to the long list of things I've screwed up in my life.
My husband was a lay preacher. He would step up when our regular pastor was sick and out of town. He had a gift at relating to people on their level. He didn't preach down to them because his past wasn't spotless either.
Yeah, I'll become a preacher the day you become a stripper.
Too late. Well, technically, I wasn't really a stripper. I was a bubble dancer.
Bubbles? Is that even a thing?
It was all very classy. We were artists. The banana dancers, now they were trashy.
You're putting me on.
No, it may be hard to believe now, but I used to have quite a figure.
You little hussy.
I was young. I needed the money. I started as a bubble dancer because I didn't have any talent to do anything else. Most people were born with something. I didn't even have any hair. Most people are born with some talent, something they can do. I wasn't. All I had was my body. It was a little seedy dive down at the waterfront, place where hookers go to get drunk fast. It was called the Itchy Kitty. I wasn't a prostitute, but I might as well have been. It was how I was treated. And backstage was even worse. There was a guy who played a banjo off stage. His name was Chester. The only place to hang my robe was on a rusted nail right next to him. And I have to go past him to get it after my performance. Well, every time it was on the floor and I had to pick it up and he'd goose me. Finally, one night, I had it with Chester and I just grabbed that banjo out of his hand and hit him on the head with it. Next night, my robe was on that nail. The night I hit Chester on the head with his banjo was the night I met my future husband, Carter. It just happened to be the night that Chester ran the spotlight. He ran the spotlight that night because Sammy, who was usually doing it, and Sammy, who'd usually do it, was in jail. See, I would toss the bubble in the air and the spotlight was supposed to follow the bubble. That stupid Chester kept the spotlight on me instead of the bubble, and everyone saw me standing with no bubble and no clothes, including Carter. I suppose you think less of me now.
Actually, I like you better.
Really?
You scandalizing woman. How long did you work at that Itchy Kitty?
It burned down a week later. Story goes that the martini mix caught fire. You should have seen those strippers run for their lives.
No, you're making that up.
Am I?
I would have loved to have seen you with that bubble.
Widow.
Lights out. Setting. Another day. Ruby enters and sits in her chair.
Is there anything I can get for you today?
Yeah, stop saying that.
This is for you.
Ruby takes a beautiful handmade sweater out of her knitting bag.
Is that what you've been knitting all this time? I didn't know what it was. I thought it was some kind of underwear you women wear that we're not supposed to know about.
I hope it keeps you warm. And don't smoke in it. It's not a smoking jacket.
I won't.
Van pulls a little box out from under his bed. It's wrapped as nicely as someone in prison can wrap.
I've been trying to decide when to give you this. I guess now's as good a time as any.
I didn't want you to give me anything.
No, it's just a little something I made.
She opens the box. It's a crucifix.
Oh, Van, I love it.
I made it with your son's pocket knife. You know, I know Protestants, they don't like crucifixes.
No, I love it. It's beautiful. Such detail in the body. And the details in the face are especially fine.
Catholics, they like crucifixes because it reminds them of suffering.
Van, it's beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to put it right by my bed.
I went to BS, I mean, Bible study.
Oh, you did? How did you like it?
The man who runs it, he's pretty funny. He tells a lot of jokes.
You know, I always like that too.
Yeah, but he's going to be leaving soon, and I don't think I'm going to like anybody else running the BS. I mean, he's going to go to Africa. I don't know why everybody thinks they always got to go to Africa.
I know it.
I guess we won't be having any more studies after he leaves. They say it's hard to get somebody who'll come to hellhole.
Are we just missing the obvious here?
You're forgetting a very important detail. I don't know anything about the Bible, and I'm not good speaking before crowds.
What crowd? How many folks they got up in that group?
6.
Then you're not speaking in front of a crowd. You're speaking to a group of friends, just like you do when you take your meals.
They stare at each other.
It helps others to know they're not alone.
You want me to be a preacher?
I didn't say that. But I think you could help people by sharing with them where you came from and how you worked through your problems. Just tell your story.
I finally figured this out. The only reason why you ever came here was an experiment for yourself. A little science project. Oh, and to twist a knife. I'm not some little monkey that you get to perform in the circus.
What?
And what are you doing here? You just sit here and knit. I mean, what do you think is happening here? You're not making me feel any better. I mean, your presence here just reminds me of what I did. Are you just seeking to punish me by showing up here every day, making me stare you down? To look into the face of the wife of the man I murdered? When you fancy yourself as an angel, a saint? I mean, you can say what you want about trying to help me, but your presence here just reminds me how horrible I am. At least I get some benefit from the drugs. At least the drugs give me some relief. The only way I could have felt forgiven was if you had actually come here with some respect. If you had done this for reasons other than yourself. Oh, my husband and my son were brutally murdered. Look at me. I can come here and sit with the murderer. Aren't I wonderful? Well, the reason why this relationship isn't working is not just because I'm an asshole. It's because you aren't seeking anything from me. You just want me to treat you like this queen, like some enlightened being who's so forgiving that she can sit here in the cell with the murderer of her family and knit and have a casual conversation. Oh, should we all bow down to you? Worship you? Is that what you want? You want to know what the real truth is? The real truth is that I have loved you from the very first day you walked in here. I didn't want to, but I couldn't help it. And the real truth is that you hated me from the very first day you walked in here. You didn't want to, but you couldn't help it. And it drove you crazy that you couldn't feel any love or forgiveness. Oh, you gave a good performance, but nobody bought it. Not me, not Shapiro, not even you. That's what made you look so weak to us. You wouldn't face it down. If you had only had the courage to shake hands with my demons, you could have embraced your own. But you didn't have that courage. And that's why we never respected you. It was like I was dog shit that you stepped in and you were just trying to scrape me off on the nearest rock.
You're right. You're right. I have hated you. And I wanted to scrape you off my shoe. I don't feel one drop of forgiveness for you. But it hasn't stopped me from trying. It hasn't stopped me from coming in here every day. I made a choice. I thought that was enough, but it wasn't. I dreaded this day, but I knew it would come eventually. I knew I would have to have my reckoning. I knew I would have to admit to you that my heart is just as black as yours. And I realized that the hate I've had in my heart all my life for white people. I mean, our white people. Leaves me in a need for forgiveness just as much as you. You see, I've never been shown any kindness by no white person. Never! Could be the places I was in. That's my experience. Wasn't my husband's experience. We can't live by other people's experience, only our own. Goodbye, Van. You won't have to see me anymore.
Van pulls the knife Ruby gave him from his pocket and holds it up between their faces. The blade glitters.
Kill me. Go on, take it. I want you to kill me. You have every right. No one will care. No one ain't gonna do nothing about it. You'll be justified, and you can have yourself some peace.
He places the knife in Ruby's hands. She holds it up to his heart, then takes his hand and places the knife in it. She gathers her book and knitting bag and turns to leave. Then pauses.
God loves you very much.
She leaves. Van reaches for his shoe and tin of polish, but thinks better of it and throws the shoe at the wall. Lights out.
I'd rather be sloppy drunk than anything I know. I'd rather be sloppy drunk than anything I know. And I know I have a pint.
Setting. Another day. Van sits on his bed, furiously shining his shoes, when he notices Dr. Shapiro walk by. He jumps and runs over to the bars of his cell.
Hey, Dr. Shapiro! Dr. Shapiro!
The doctor comes back.
Where's Ruby? She's not here. She's always here every day by 10 a.m. I mean, she's never missed a day.
Didn't you hear?
What?
I'm sorry, I just assumed you'd heard. Ruby's been taken to the infirmary. She's very sick.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with her?
I guess it doesn't matter if I tell you now. She never told you this, but she's been living with a bullet lodged in her shoulder ever since the night you shot her family. The bullet that killed her son.
Can't you just remove the bullet?
You did that, but she's in a state of shock from a blood clot that began near the bullet and traveled to her head. It's putting pressure on her brain, and it's inoperable at this point. She's in and out of consciousness.
Now I've killed her too? Why didn't somebody tell me? I should have been told.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's just been so busy here today with the new inmates arriving. Look, I'll let you know if I hear anything. I've got to go get to my appointment. Excuse me.
Wait, Dr. Shapiro. Wait. Come back. What are you doing for her?
Well, we're trying to make her as comfortable as possible. I mean, there's just nowhere else for her to go.
Because she's colored.
Yes.
Does she know?
Are you kidding? You know how she is. She made me tell her everything.
How long does she have?
It depends, but not long. We've done all we can to do, but there's no more else we can do. Sorry.
I don't want to see her. I mean, it's too hard to say goodbye.
She wants to see you.
I don't want to do that to her.
But maybe it's not for you to decide.
He leaves. Van stands still, looking out into the darkness.
Tell me again how much God loves me. I keep forgetting.
Lights out. Setting. Later in the prison infirmary. Ruby lies in bed, still, her eyes closed. Dr. Shapiro unlocks the door, ushers Van inside, and steps back a respectful distance. Van shuffles toward her, tentatively.
So you came to see a dying woman on display?
Are they sure?
Well, there's a chance it's a voodoo curse, but only a slight chance.
Is there anything I can do for you today?
You already done it.
Van leans down close to Ruby. Her breathing is shallow.
I thought you and I were so different. I mean, you thought you had no talent, that you weren't born with anything, no skills to do anything. I always felt that way myself. I had to be a farmer. Not that I was any good at it, it was just handed me to do. It's like you being handed that bubble to dance around behind. You've been the only reason why I wanted to wake up in the morning. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you for helping me to see.
What?
See myself. We all have to learn the same lesson before we die. We just learn in different ways. You're no longer a slave. You're free. Son,
Ruby. I'm so sorry for what I've done to you.
Taste and see. The Lord is good.
And she's gone. Van kisses Ruby tenderly on her cheek and lays his head on her pillow. Dr. Shapiro steps forward and puts his hand on Van's shoulder. Slowly, Ruby rises. She looks around and sees her husband and son. They all smile at each other, join hands, and walk off together along the river. Lights out.
Thank you for joining us. We'd like to open up the floor to any questions or comments the audience might have, or anything the cast might want to share. Well, until we get any questions, I'd like to hear from Chantel.
What do you want to hear? Hey, everybody.
Great show.
Great
Beautiful
show.
work. Beautiful work, everyone. Chantel, what did you discover as you studied for Ruby?
A lot. Oh my gosh, there's like the way you've written this has so many, there's so many emotions there. I just discovered a lot of family values that was there with the Carlton and Junior. The fun that was there, I just thought it was beautifully written. I also discovered the pain of people, like really deeply. I felt that Van's character, you know, people are kind of like, when you look at their past and their history and things that happened to them, it's kind of like they communicate with their whole lives. And Van was communicating with his whole life. And I saw that. I saw a lot of his pain. I saw that you don't necessarily commit a crime because you're just an evil person. I saw how he had become corrupted. It was a deep moment where I can really identify, in a sense, this character, she's really trying to, you know, heal in her own way too. And she's also trying to carry out a wish. But I saw when he started talking about his life and the things he experienced, that's where I could relate. So there was a lot of connection for me to discover that we all as humans have our own demons and our own battles. And at some point in our life, we have to choose to let go of some of the pain, to let go and start to forgive. I saw this as a forgiveness piece, really. And it's very hard. And even when there's a line in there where I had the part about me having a need for forgiveness for white people, that line right there was very deep, especially with what has went on in our world, with the racial divide. I felt that, like, it was really deep for me just to examine my own self and what I feel in reference to people, whether they're white, black, or green, or purple. It just really touched on me having to investigate my own heart and my own need to forgive other people when I feel like I've been robbed, when I feel like something has been taken from me. So those were the discoveries that I found for myself, in all honesty.
Well, the reason I cast you is because, knowing you, I think you were very close to being what I pictured Ruby as being. I think you're very close to that. Sydney Wayne Davis and Ricky Westmoreland are asking me what inspired the story. I heard this story It was supposedly a true story of a woman in South Africa in the 1800s that this happened to. I did the research, and all I could find was the trial transcript. And so I imported that word for word into my script. She could epitomize forgiveness the way we're asked to forgive in the Bible in the most severe way. And the first that she forgave him, she sincerely loved him, forgave him, he loved her, he was thankful for the forgiveness, and at the end he was executed, and that was that. And it was very dull. There was nothing there. And I thought, wow, there needs to be more conflict. Ruby needs to struggle with forgiveness, because the average person, I think, would have to struggle with this. And so I put that struggle into it, and he never asked her for forgiveness until the very end. But she did it anyway. She honored her husband's request. She went every day. She did the best she could at forgiving him. And I think that's all anyone could ask, is she did try. Somebody else asked me, my cousin Ruth-Ann asked, did I get anything from my Black friends? And I did get some things from Black friends, and I did get things from my own experience, obviously, and things that I'd heard growing up. But I wanted this to be a story people could relate to, all people could relate to, that it wasn't just some enlightened being that we couldn't attain to. I wanted her to be a living, breathing person, and I wanted all the characters to be imperfect. I didn't want anybody to be too perfect, and I think Chantel brought that quality. I would like to ask Zacerous. Zacerous did an awesome job, and I would like to ask him about his journey in discovering Carlton, because that's a hard character to play and bring it across as a real person.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult for me to really, I mean, like Chantel was saying, I think with most of the characters, there are so many different colors, you know, and the way he's written these characters, you know, we still have I feel we have a lot of work to do, because there's so many different levels that we need to find within the characters. But in saying that, I think that, you know, given the time that we've had to work with this, I think that we all are professionals, and we did a very nice job with our characters and searching and trying to find the truths in the characters. But for me, being a Southerner man, dealing with a whole lot of racism, my most difficult part was asking Ruby to forgive him. And I actually shared that with Darrell. I was like, okay, this ain't something I would say, but I work with this, okay? But it, you know, it was this script is beautifully written, beautifully acted, and it's perfect for this climate today, any climate for that matter. I think the world's just kind of a crazy place, no matter where you are. But some of the dialect, you know, and just really trying to find the true essence of what kind of man Carlton really is. And I'm still, you know, every time I read the script, I would find something new and interesting every time. So I feel like, you know, I still have a long way to go with this guy.
You did a beautiful job. Thank you.
Oh,
you're very believable. Let's talk to Jared. Is Jared still in there?
Yeah.
Jared played Carlton Jr. Jared, I'd like to hear about your experience. You're the newest member to this cast. How did you discover Junior?
For me, it was really like reading more into the relationship between like my father and my mom, and like seeing the foundation that I was taught, and the fact that like they always encouraged me to chase my dreams, even if they didn't agree with what I would go for. They would always like have my back at that, and it was really the strength of like really learning, like really off of like Zacerous like character, like that a scene where we're like just fishing and talking about being men and stuff. Like that scene, I feel like was a really big part of in Junior's life, because that in that scene, Junior is really becoming a man and also learning what it's like to be a man, learning what it's like to take responsibility. And I just really enjoyed being able to see the world through Junior's eyes, because Junior doesn't see the world as a terrible place. He really sees the world for the best that it can be. And I definitely can see that. And also like the scene with like me and Chantel, like Chantel, she like really like we worked on like really getting that mother-son relationship, because like of course like Junior definitely is a mama's boy, because like he needs his mom's approval, and like that in the scene when he's talking about being a nightclub singer, I feel like that's like something like I personally like was really connected with, because that's like kind of like when I was talking to my mom about being an actor. It's like one of those things where it's like you already know what the answer is going. You already know what your answer is. Like I'm doing this regardless, but I want your blessing for this. Yeah. So it was like like that.
Very good. Thank you. You really brought a lot of life and joy to the character, a lot of humor, and that's what we needed there. Let's talk to Charles Isen.
Yeah.
He joined us recently, and I want to hear how he discovered Dr. Shapiro.
Well, it's interesting, the paradoxes and the contradictions of being human that kind of came out of my character. You know, here's a guy who deadens himself with alcohol and says he's a freak because he can't feel. And yet there's that moment where I get caught up in the music of Wagner, and it kind of transports me to this place of beauty and wonderfulness. And yet it's Wagner, this anti-Semite who apparently gave Hitler all his ideas. And how do you resolve that? How is that even possible? So there was that, and the whole story that I have about my childhood, about being a freak and an outcast. And yet here I am being the Barker in my own freak show. So kind of how my childhood, my life now parallels my childhood, and the way I thought about myself and the decisions I've made. So all of that kind of is what guided me there. And I think there was a time in my life where I was an idealist, but it was brief, I think. I think that candle got extinguished pretty quickly.
Well, you really brought everything I hoped for Shapiro, so thank you for taking this on. You did a beautiful job. I know it's not easy to sing that Lydia, the Tattooed Lady song, but you did it beautifully. Groucho would have been proud.
Yeah, I watched him several times.
Thank you so much. Let's talk to Carey Fox, who played Van. Go ahead and turn your mic on, Carey, and tell us how you discovered this. So Carey's been with this project since the beginning. I've been working on this about 10 years. And somebody asked me personally how this piece affected me, and it was a lot of hard work. And for a long time, I just put this piece on the shelf, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I thought it was too dark, too unhappy. And I was finally able to tweak it a little bit and give it a little more hope and joy. And then I thought, well, maybe we can dust this off and bring it back. And Melvin, Ishmael Howard, the producer, had always been wanting to produce this. And I sent him an email. I said, are you interested in doing this again? He sent me an email right back immediately and said, yes, let's do it. Let's do a Zoom. And then somebody else was asking if he future plans, and we do hope to put this up in the theater in Hollywood as soon as the restrictions are lifted, and that's our next plan for this production. So we'll keep you posted. And anyway, so Carey Fox has been with this production since the beginning. He and I did a web series together called Asylum, and I thought he'd be perfect for Van, and he is Van. Carey, what did you discover as you took on the role of Van?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us tonight, taking some time out of your life. We appreciate it. I'm a Zoom novice, so this is all new to me. It's quite daunting at times, doing everything, moving backgrounds around, and sticking to the story, and turning cameras on, lights off. It's quite a thing, but it's probably the future, especially with the pandemic. That's what kept us taking this to the boards, and we're here. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank the cast, Darrell. Everybody was fantastic, and Pam especially. Thank you, Pam, for all your help with Zoom. As far as inspiration for the pain in the ass in the story, I think that was me. I would always call you. Hey, man, what do you think about this? Let's do this. Let's do keep them on his toes. As far as, yeah, we worked together about 10 years ago on a great web series called Asylum. And he came to me, and I've been on the journey with him ever since, and I appreciate that. It's quite a ride. Matter of fact, the last time we were going to do this, a guy hit me on the way to the theater in a car, and I couldn't get there in time, and I was panicked, and I would have loved to have seen Darrell have to play Van with no notice. That, I'm sorry I missed. That's the first time I ever missed a performance in my life. I'm sorry about that. Van, easy. I think I was the biggest asshole that Darrell knew, so I was the obvious choice. And, you know, got problems. I don't know what else to say. It's a work in progress. Ruby kind of digs him out of the weeds and nourishes him to some kind of spiritual health or something to help his redemption on his journey. Fortunately, a lot of people don't get that help that they need, especially in this day. There's a lot of people out there that need some help. So hopefully, humanity has something up their sleeve and take this to the next level. But thank you, Darrell. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Carey. Thank you, Carey. If you hadn't been so good as Van, this project wouldn't have worked. Somebody asked me how this project changed me. This play is really everything I believe. In a nutshell, I believe in redemption. I believe that people can change. They can make something better of their life. And I do believe that having unforgiveness is like drinking poison to get back at the other person. It's really forgiveness is really for you and for your health and your happiness to move on and have a productive life. And so this is everything I believe in this production. I believe that people can have redemption. And I believe in humor, and a lot of those scenes about the church folk, those are things I said at church. That's what I believe, all those things. So I included a lot of that in there. I want it to be funny. Also, I want to hear from Riley Bowles. He was our narrator. He is from South Africa. And thank you for joining us. I met him at the Santa Monica Playhouse years ago when he first got to town. He'd just gotten here. And he was very friendly, and I thought he had a great personality, a really friendly person. So Riley, are you still there? You want to comment on how this project affected you?
Yes. Well, firstly, thank you for letting me be a part of it, Darrell. It was really it was a great experience. The story is amazing. It's really just a beautiful story about all those things, you know, redemption and forgiveness. Very strong Christian themes that came through. And honestly, Darrell, I could tell that this is you on the paper. You know, I could hear your voice through all these characters, and you know, some of the, you know, discussions that you and I have had. I saw kind of that attitude, that heart in some of these characters and what was being said, and in the themes of the story. And there were also just some really neat moments that I picked up on. Like, for instance, the part where Ruby is talking about generational curses, and Van is like, "What are you talking about? What kind of, you know, nonsense is this that you're talking about?" And she explains the concept of generational curses, and he's like, "What? That's just ridiculous. Where do you learn to talk like that?" And then he explains his situation and his, you know, what happened to his mom, and his biological father was a rapist and a criminal, and, you know, here he is, and he's a criminal and he's in prison. And it was like, literally, you're an example of the generational curse playing out. And I don't know if that was a deliberate choice on your part, Darrell, but, you know, I definitely picked up on that, and I just thought, wow, that's amazing. So, you know, I think there were moments like that throughout the script that really just showed some that just made the story really smart and you know, and extra interesting. And yeah, I you know, I enjoyed all the performances. All of you guys were really amazing. And yeah, it was just a beautiful story, and I was just glad to be a part of it. So
thank you for joining us. You really made it a richer experience. And the story about the African Impala, I heard that at a church service. A pastor used that as an illustration. I think that is really partly what this is about, is we don't know how high we can jump. We've been brought up behind a 3-foot high fence. We don't know we can jump 9 feet high because we haven't tried it. So I'd like to leave that with everybody else. And thank you, audience, for joining us. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And so we did practice, we did rehearse a lot, but there's always technical things. And that makes the live performances more exciting, I think, when you know you have to keep going even though there's a problem. So thank you all for working through that cast. And thank you, audience, for joining us from all over the world. We really appreciate you. And we hope to see you again. Thank you. Good night. God bless.
Lordy, how they play it, boy, they really sway it. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.